Hello. At the start, I want to say that the written version of the guide will be posted in the video description, like always. However, it won't be as detailed as the video one, because of limited space. If you struggle to replicate the build just from written guide, please watch the video. I will explain the build in more details. Today I will show you my new build for Dead Knight, and that you can use in Titan Hunt. This is yet another character on which I used Fangs of Doom as my previous build, so it was in need of an update. Dead Knight, just like Beastmaster, is one of few characters that has pretty good setup for Fangs of Doom, but I decided to go with something that I didn't use yet in my new guides, which is Spender Skill. The build works quite similar as the Fangs of Doom, as we scale Doom once again. However, instead focusing on Fangs of Doom, we use Shadow Grasp this time. This build focuses on late game damage, so I recommend using it in the base Titan Hunt level, maybe Sigil +1. Anything above that just makes enemies more tanky, while not giving us extra reward. Naturally, we run last Sigil to have access to Void King and its powers, and get all possible types of materials, including Void Essences. So we pick fourth weapon, which gives us access to both skills that we will be utilizing in this build, Frost Strike and Glacial Affinity. Unfortunately, this time artifact power doesn't give us much, other than some extra hits to apply stacks. When it comes to runes, since I mostly make those builds as material farmers, I reserve 2 spots for material runes, material harvest and efficient extraction. Material harvest being better for regular materials and efficient extraction being better for void essences, aka boss parts. If you care about prestige levels, you can take Arduous Training over one of the material runes. Third minor rune we take is in Endless Refill, which provides us with extra rerolls and locks every cycle. If you don't care about farming materials and you just play regularly, you can replace material runes with reroll mastery to have even more rerolls, which definitely will increase your DPS a little, and weapon expert to have Glacial Affinity from the start. With major runes we don't have much flexibility. The 4 runes I tag in this build are definitely the best combo you can use, and without using them the build will be way weaker or might not even work at all. Those 4 runes being Singular Focus, Divine Legacy, Demonic Pact and Synergetic. Singular Focus is required to take Frost Strike multiple times. Divine Legacy allows us to force spawn both skill chain passives every 30 levels. Demonic Pact is used to add 2 runic power, which allows us to take Synergetic, and Synergetic is used to boost chance of poison to Doom synergy, but from Synergetic is used to boost chance to proc the poison to Doom synergy from 50% to 75%, and also significantly increase chance of finding it. Since we are using Divine Legacy in this build, I highly recommend saving rerolls for rerolling legendary passives. Make sure to take both Swing to Nature and Ice to Nature every time. Third passive is we are aiming for is Damage to Physical Skills. If you hold all of spare rocks, you can try fishing for it. So for the skills, like I already mentioned, we utilize Singular Focus rune to be able to pick same skill multiple times. We don't need to snapshot any skills early on, so we just focus on our proper skills. We take Frost Strike 3 times in total, which is great low cooldown skill. Since this skill has also 2 main tags, Ice and Swing, it can actually double chain, which makes it great skill chain support, even though it doesn't have attack speed passives. In addition, it provides Fragility, giving us 3 times more damage, saving us 1 Titan passive point, because normally you would need to take it from Titan. Another skill we take is Glacial Affinity, which provides huge amount of added damage to our build. Depending on the lag with passives, in the end we can reach around 2500 to 3000 added damage. Fifth skill we take is Poison Cloud, which will be our Doom generator. It is great stack generator that hits 16 times in total, each hit having chance to apply Doom. Since we will be using skill chains to trigger it, we end up with so many clouds to have hundreds of hits per second. In addition, it is source of weakness, which makes our Doom deal over 3 times more damage, and once again saving us one Titan passive point, because otherwise we'll need to take it from Titan. And our last skill is Shadow Grasp, which is Doom Spender. Every time it hits the enemy, it removes or spends all Doom stacks of it on it, making all of them dealing damage instantly and strengthening them in the process. This build usually ends up with around 3000 bonus on this skill, however it is multiplier, not added damage, meaning all our damage is dealing, all our Doom damage is dealing over 30 times more damage. Since we also use Divine Legacy rune, early on the strategy is to take only swing or ice skills, using rerolls if there are none available, and take one nature and one shadow skill. Before level 30 we want to have at least 2 ice skills, at least 2 swing skills, Frost Strike counts as both of them, 1 nature skill and 1 shadow skill. Even better if you avoid taking more than 1 skill with magical attack, focusing only on physical ones. Of course, if you find one of the skills that we want for the build, take them, even if it means having, for example, 2 nature skills or 2 shadow skills for some time. Reducing amount of types just makes getting chains from Divine Legacy easier. For skills passives, let me talk about each skill separately, since we have 3 damage dealers this time, kinda. For the Frost Strike, we don't care about any passives. It doesn't have attack speed passives, instead it has area of effect passives, which are useless. Damage passives will increase damage of Doom applied by this skill, however it is not our Doom generator, so we don't care about it either. And multicast is banished. Group passives to Missile and Frontal go with the same rules, as they only work on Frost Strike. Poison Cloud is our Doom generator, since it applies pretty much 99% of Doom stacks. Damage passive for it are pretty much on par with Doom damage passives. Since we can't aim it and its base area of effect isn't that huge, it's also good to take area of effect for it a few times until the clouds start to cover entire screen. Multicast for it is banished, because skills triggered by skill chains cannot multicast. Glacial Affinity is buff skill, so it doesn't have the usual passives. Since we will heavily focus on cast frequency in this build, we can easily reduce its cooldown below the duration, so both frequency and duration passives are pretty much useless. Potency passives for it is very good, or are very good, as they will increase the other damage it provides. Base damage it provides is 200%, so every 30% potency passive is 60% extra damage for the build, making it as good as Doom damage passives of the same tier. Lastly, for the Shadow Grasp, the passives also work a little differently on it. Since it's Spender skill, we don't care about its actual hit damage, only about its damage multiplier part. Only way to increase it is to take damage passive for directed skill itself, the regular damage won't work. Like I mentioned earlier, this is damage multiplier, not added damage, so damage passives for this skill take priority over any other ones. Similar to Poison Cloud, it will start with quite low range, so taking few area of effect passives for it is also good. multicast for it is banished. In addition to that, our main three skills share a lot of tags, meaning some of group passives are actually very good. Let's start with one that we want to take every time, which are Damage to Swing, works on Shadow Grasp and increasing its Damage Multiplier. Damage to Ice works on Glacial Affinity, increasing its added damage bonus. Damage to Area work on Shadow Grasp, Glacial Affinity and Poison Cloud. In addition, we want to take damage or crit to non-swing skills, which work on both Glacial Affinity and Poison Cloud. And we want to also take damage or crit to non-ice skills, which work on both Shadow Grasp and Poison Cloud. Area effect and multicast passives of those stacks can be taken when there is nothing better available. For offensive stats, passives naturally overtop priority cast frequency to lower cooldown of Frost Strike to lowest possible. Right after it, the priority takes crit chance, as we are not able to get that much of it in this build. Other stats don't really matter because we get a lot of them from buffs, so passives itself won't change much, but personally I went with crit damage as next on the line, then area effect and regular damage at the end. Multicast is banished because, as mentioned earlier, skills triggered by skill chains can't multicast, and it also removes one passive from our legendary passive pool. That's also why I banished multicast for every skill. For defensive stats, since Dead Knight cannot dash, having a lot of movement speed is pretty much mandatory to not die. I recommend going for around 350% in total, but you can go for more if you want. When it comes to HP, it depends on your gameplay. Personally, I almost never get hit, and if I do, it's depending where I would go get one-shotted even with a lot of HP. That's why I only take HP when there is nothing better available, but if you prefer to be more tanky, you can pick it more often. Armor and block are completely ignored, because later on enemies penetrate 90% of our defense. Since Magnet or XP passives don't work on the XP we got in the past, the earlier we take them, the better the effect in long term, which means we want to prioritize them early on, and once we reach around 200 extra XP, we start to take them only when there is nothing better available. Like I already mentioned earlier, skill chains are one of the most important things in this build, and that's also why we use Divine Legacy rune to force spawn legendary skill chains every 30 levels. We take two types of them, Swing to Nature and Ice to Nature, and depending on the luck, you will reach around 600 to 700% in total. We add them because both trigger the same skill. When it comes to negative effects, we obviously focus on Doom, but we also use various other ones for different effects. It has access to Slow, Poison and Doom right from the start. Our first priority actually is Poison on hit, not Doom. Try to get Poison on hit both white and green tier once, and Poison on crit once. We take both tiers because they count towards and can trigger synergy separately, and we ignore them after. Ignore poison damage, poison frequency and instant poison damage. They are useless to us. Naturally, since our build focuses on Doom, we also want to take Doom on hit, Doom on crit and Doom damage every time we see them. Instant Doom damage is also good to take, especially if you find it early on. Personally, I only ignore white tier of Doom on hit and Doom damage when there is other better passive, not worth spending lock on them, but green tier passives I try to take every time. As for the slow, we start with 2 sources of it already, which is enough to unlock slow to disarray synergy, so we don't need to rush those. Just take slow on hit both white and the green tier ones, and slow on crit whenever there is nothing better available, and ignore those passives after. Once you take slow to disarray synergy, you will start finding disarray passives. Ignore them entirely, don't take them even once. Synergy alone is enough to reach hard cap of 200 stacks, and picking one extra passive of disarray would unlock disarray to blitz synergy, which we would need to banish. Disarray will give on average 1.5% more damage per stack, so in total it makes our build deal over 4 times more damage. That ascension is pretty bad for Titan Hunt mode, because early on it takes too long to collect enough souls to summon horses, while later on they die way too fast. However, we don't disable it, as it provides us source of slow, poison and doom. You can take white tier passives for it, ignore green and blue tier passives. I already briefly mentioned synergies when talking about negative effects, but I also want to add more details about it. Poison to Doom synergy is our top priority in this build, and it is also only synergy left that is not banished. We want to banish other synergies because we use synergetic rune that increase chance of finding those, so we want to make sure that when we find the synergy, it's the one we want to get. This means that we banish slow to disarray synergy after taking it once, and we banish doom to burn synergy without taking it at all. So I already mentioned few banishes during this guide, and now I'll also list the remaining ones. First, let me remind you of what we already banished. So we banish multicast to all of our skills, meaning multicast to Frost Strike, multicast to Poison Cloud, multicast to Shadow Grasp, and regular multicast. We also banish 2 synergies, which are slow to disarray after taking it once, and doom to burn. For remaining 4 banishes, we focus on cooling legendary passives pool for a higher chance to find the passive we want. This means we banish other skill chains we don't care about, those being Swing to Ice skill chain, Ice to Swing skill chain, Swing to Shadow skill chain, and Ice to Shadow skill chain. This gives us pretty high chance to find both skill chains we want, and once we get enough locks saved, we can use them to lock both skill chains and try to fish for damage to physical skills as third passive from the Divine Legacy. It's very good because it pretty much triple dips for the build. It increases damage multiplier on Shadow Grasp, so more damage of our Dome. It increases added damage bonus from Glacial Affinity, so once again more damage on Doom, and it also increases damage of Doom applied by Poison Cloud, so we pretty much increase the damage of our Doom 3 times. Okay, so now that we know how the build works, what to take, what to ignore, and so on, time for another very important aspect of the build, which are Titans and their passives. Order of them is quite important, and passives we take from them is even more important, so I recommend leaving 5 to 10 rerolls for each Titan to make sure we get the passive we are looking for, and we can roll for specific Titan as our next cycle. The first Titan we go to is Mezahead, the Scorpion, and we take Exposed on hit power. While Exposed does not work on Doom, because it's not direct damage, it does work on the Shadow Grasp when it spends all that Doom, giving us huge damage multiplier of 13 times more damage. Sorry, I had to drink something. Second Titan is Arwanak, the spider, from which we take Poison to Dazed synergy. This will provide 200 extra crit chance for the build. Later on we will get a lot of crit from other sources, but early on it definitely gives us huge damage bonus. Third Titan we go for is Broken, aka the Lizard, from which we take Shattered on hit power. Shattered reduces armor of enemies by fixed amount. For Titan Hand, 200 stacks is hard cap, so minus 200 armor on enemies. This means the more armor enemies get from each cycle, the weaker Shatter gets. However, it speeds up early cycles significantly, and also later on you use it for the other power, so it's still worth to take it. Fourth Titan we go for is Arwanak again, the spider. This time we take Disarray to Disoriented synergy. Disoriented provides 1% more crit damage per stack, so that's another 3 times more on damage for the build. After beating 4th Titan, we go to the Void King realm. From Void Hunter, the mini-boss before the king, we take 120% cast frequency passive, which will reduce cooldown of our frost strikes significantly. From the Void King himself, we take chance to apply wound on crit power. Wound is wait, sorry. Okay, wound is unique negative effect, which gives us 50% chance to apply double stacks of any other negative effect on the target, including Doom, which is main focus on our build, resulting in 50% more damage on average. After beating the king, our next titan on the list is Phaidon, the ogre, from which we take chance to gain finesse whenever we multicast. It won't do much for Shadow Grasp or Poison Cloud, however it will make us cast Frost Strikes more often, which will allow us to generate more form stacks from other power later on. 7th Titan on the list is Midrak the Beetle, from which we want to take chance to gain aptitude each time we crit power. With the amount of hits this build has in late game, we can reach 800 or more stacks of aptitude, meaning 1100% more, or added, meaning 1600 or more added crit damage, giving us a huge boost to overall DPS. 8th Titan we will be fighting are Cobalt Twins, Vivolt and Volcaga, from which we take Shatter to Prowess synergy. At first this won't give us much, but in the end game we are able to reach soft cap of 800 Prowess stacks, meaning 800% added damage. So at this point we got all key elements of the build, so next titans will be focusing on getting stats we still don't have that much of. Obviously we are still far from having 0.15 second cooldown on frost strikes, so we want to get extra cast frequency. For that we have two nice options with cast frequency and crit damage from Midrak, the Beetle, and extra cast frequency every time we hit with nature skill, up to 64% from Fairypox, the mushroom. Another thing that we still don't have much of is crit chance, that's why we will also visit Mezahead, the scorpion, few times to take chance to gain form every time we cast a skill from it. All three options are good, so we will be doing all of them, starting from the hardest. So the 9th Titan will be Mezahead, the Scorpion, from which we take chance to gain form every time we cast a skill. 10th Titan will be Midorak, the Beetle, from which we take cast frequency and crit damage passive. 11th Titan will be Felipox, the mushroom, from which we take extra cast frequency every time we hit with nature skill. 12th Titan will be Mezahead, the scorpion again, from which we take chance to gain form every time we cast a skill, second time. 13th Titan will be Midorak, the beetle again, from which we take cast frequency and crit damage passive again. 14th Titan will be Felipox, the mushroom again, from which we take extra cast frequency every time we hit with nature skill again. 15th Titan will be Mezahead, the scorpion again, from which we take chance to gain form every time we cast a skill, third time. 16th Titan will be Midorak, the beetle again, from which we take cast frequency and crit damage passive again. 17th Titan will be Felipox, the mushroom again, from which we take extra cast frequency every time we hit with nature skill again. 18th Titan will be Mezahead, the scorpion again, from which we take chance to gain form every time we cast a skill, fourth time. 19th Titan will be Midorak, the beetle again, from which we take cast frequency and crit damage passive again. 20th Titan will be Mezahead, the scorpion for the last time, from which we take chance to gain form every time we skill, fifth time. This is enough to get close to soft cap of 800 stacks of form, which gives us 800% added crit chance. 21st Titan will be Felipox, the mushroom, for the last time, from which we take extra cast frequency every time we hit with nature skill again. At this point we reach lowest cooldown possible of Frost Strike, or we get very close to it. Since getting more form would not be efficient because of soft cap, and getting more cast frequency won't do anything because we reached the lowest cooldown possible already, remaining titans can be anything that is easy to kill. That's why 22nd Titan will be Hector, the Ice Giant, from which you can take either extra kit damage per unique buff or extra damage each time we hit with swing skill. And for the last Titan, the 23rd one, we pick Spider, which is easiest to kill. We don't care what passives it offers, we are leaving after beating it, as at this point Titans start to take too long to kill for them to be worth farming more, over 1 minute per Titan. Okay, so that's all information related to the build. Hopefully I explained it well enough that you are able to follow it. If you don't understand something about the build or have trouble with specific part of it, let me know in the comments. It's totally possible that I forgot about something, thinking that's obvious, not realizing that for new player it in fact might not be that obvious. I try to talk about everything in my guides, but there is a lot of things in those builds, so it's easy to miss some less important informations. You can also watch the full run of the build in the video I posted yesterday. I'll put a link to it in the video description as well. I hope that this build will help you with farming, or maybe you will learn something that will help you in creating your own builds. Thank you for watching, I will see you in the next one. Have a good day, bye bye.